I'm so glad you're online. Why don't we go somewhere a little more private? Only $9.99 a minute.
Let me just get my credit card.
Oh yeah, Daddy, you know the one I like.
Oh no!
It's the Hey, You Made Your Movie Show, hosted by Carl Diamond.
Welcome to the Hey, You Made Your Movie Show. I am your host, Carl Diamond. Well, you've caught me in a bit of a situation. Very private time for me.
Private time.
I swear it has to do with today's film. See, I had the opportunity to speak with Jared Bratt and Vincent, who put out their debut feature, Streamer. I also had the opportunity to speak with their lead actress, Tanya Lee. So, without further ado, here is the trailer for Streamer.
Anyone feeling lonely?
Hello, Mr. Darcy.
Why don't you tell me about your day?
Spent some time with this girl.
Why don't you tell me about her?
We like the same things. I think we're a good match, like physically.
Sounds like you're really feeling her.
She's got a really nice smile. And when she smiles, I smile.
Are you in love?
She has a boyfriend.
Are you sure I can't lose this bikini for you?
I just want you to like me. That's all.
Can we see the cat, by the way? Is it like circling you as we speak?
Oh, she's over here. Let me see if I can grab her real quick. Disappear into Los Angeles skyline.
Hello.
There we go.
Where's
You
Frank?
want Frank? Hang on. Wait 1 second. This is my guy here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the big one.
Oh,
He's like
Hey,
3 times the
Frank.
size of your cat, maybe.
yeah.
Look, Vincent, it's your friend.
Gypsy, look, another cat.
Hey, Frank.
He's
I miss
struggling
you.
so hard right now. Okay, I'm gonna put him down. Oh no, we got him in the headphones.
We just doubled our views. All right, so where are we all right now? Jared, where are you?
I'm visiting back home in Montreal. I live in Toronto.
Vincent, where are you?
I'm in Toronto, where we shot Streamer.
Oh, perfect. And Tanya, where are you right now?
Oh yeah, I fled Toronto too. We're outside Vancouver on the coast.
All right, and how have we been spending the pandemic?
I don't know, man. It's like, I'm not gonna lie, this pandemic's been rough. A lot of downtime. I work on film sets, so there's no work going on for me right now. Watching a lot of movies. Going back, I've been watching a lot of Polanski movies. Went through De Palma movies.
Vincent, what have you been up to?
Just catching up on movies and working on a new script.
Oh, nice.
And so just then, I guess recently we started back working. Like shows are just starting to come back up now. So I've been on this new TV show and for the last 2 weeks. So that's, yeah, it's really weird because like you go back to work and it's like kind of like a completely different job now. Like, we get tested for COVID twice a week and there's all these protocols and, you can't, it's like there's no food because you can't share stuff. It's going to be an interesting year to say the least.
So there's no crafty at all.
Yeah, well, we're going to, apparently we're just going to get one person to man the kitchen. And then it's like, okay, you go up to them and go, what do you want? Maybe a coffee, an apple.
You're going to put it through one of those bank teller doors where it's like an airlock.
Yeah, that's what, if someone just came into our office today, I was like, it looks like a bank teller's office because everyone's got these plexiglass windows and there's a little slot there, and it's, it's funny because you walk in there and it's like everyone has their face covering, so you don't really know what everyone looks like, and then when you finally see them without them, you're like, who is that again?
Well, they should make masks that are the person's face,
Yeah,
Tanya, what have you been up to during the pandemic?
So my life's like not that different because I have 2 tiny children. And when you have tiny children, you don't leave your house. But on the more exciting note, my second book, I published it last month.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so here's what the first one looks like. And here's the second one. So I'm an indie writer, so it's kind of the same process as indie filmmaking, because like it's kind of like streamer, because like my series has won a bunch of awards and got really good like critical feedback, but like I'm like so low on sales and it's all self-funded, so you know, kind of the samesies.
One thing about Streamer, one note I will say, it's a very intense, and from my personal experience, very uncomfortable film. I know there were a lot of times where I was watching it from the corner, and other times when I was screaming at the screen, no. But, you know, it's very authentic, and I feel like the film captures a lot of emotions that a lot of people go through during, you know, the hunt for romance when you know you don't have a lot of experience in that field. Very uncomfortable, just to emphasize that. Very great, but very uncomfortable. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was watching it from the corner of my room sometimes. So,
well, I guess that means the movie was effective.
Yeah, very effective. But you know, one doesn't start out making Streamer. That's not the first thing you make when you pick up a camera. So where did you start?
How did I get into filmmaking?
Yeah.
For me, I was born and raised on movies. My dad took me to a lot of movies growing up. If it wasn't movies, it was animation, but they kind of went hand in hand. Yeah, so from there, I took film in high school as an elective, and then I did it in CEGEP or college or pre-college in Montreal. Majored in film studies in university at Concordia University in Montreal, and then moved to Toronto in 2009 to do a 9-month film production.
Oh, wow.
I met a mutual friend, Vincent and I, Rob. He introduced me to Vincent. 2013, I wrote and directed a short film called Streamer. Vincent was the director of photography on that, and he shot it. And then summer of 2014, Vincent pitched me the idea of adapting that short into a feature film. And then 2016 is when we actually just said, fuck it, and went out and just shot it.
Swear.
We're allowed to swear.
Yeah, you can swear. Sure. All right. And Vincent, how did you get into it?
It's pretty much the same story. In Canada, we have like something called career studies in grade 10, and I was really getting into movies. Like I think that was around that time IMDb was introduced, and I remember going on IMDb and looking at the top 250 and just watching every movie on that list and just really getting into movies and kind of loving it. And then, you know, one day they had to do an assignment on like what kind of, you know, what do you want to do for your career? And I guess I was just like, I'll just do film directing or filmmaking just for fun, because I was like, oh, this could be a fun topic just to do. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I should be a filmmaker. And then I really looked into it and I was like, wow, this is an actual job, you know, because as a kid, you watch a movie and it's like, oh, that's just a movie. It didn't really hit me that, oh, human beings actually did these things, and that there's a film director, and then they had to write scripts, and that whole process really fascinated me. I took some film courses in high school and then went 4-year program at York University and did film school. And yeah, same thing where it's, you know, you get out of film school, you start working in the industry, but you don't really know how to make a film. And then one time, you know, we were with Jared and we were just talking about like ideas of, oh, we want to make films and how hard it was, and the idea of like, oh, why don't we just collaborate and, you know, do something with, you know, we jokingly talked about like, well, what Streamer be like as a feature, and the idea of it just kind of snowballed and it just got bigger, and there's a lot in there that we can kind of expand, and it could be a, you know, interesting premise for a feature film. And that's how the Streamer began, I guess.
I want to elaborate on that in a moment, but let's move on to Tanya. Tanya, how did you get into acting?
Well, I think I knew I wanted to act by the time I was, 5 or 6, and I had the kind of parents that did not get me an agent, and instead I, played soccer and baseball and did kid things, which I'm actually very grateful for. And then when I was doing my undergrad, I did political science and English lit at UBC. I got, so it's funny, some of the people I went to high school with, who I did high school acting with, are like really successful. And so I ended up going to their acting school, which was this little black box acting school. And I was there, like my university was like this side thing I did. And I was mostly focused on the acting with these really, really incredible, talented people who have had these amazing careers that I see on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, damn. I was like, I'll finish my undergrad, I'll get full-time into acting. And then I ended up going to a human rights conference in Tijuana that was about, migrant rights and human trafficking. And then I ended up going to grad school and being like, I don't need to act. That's not, that important. And then, of course, if there's something you really love and you really care about, especially if it's in the arts and you try not to do it, it just kind of, you just don't really sleep well, right? So I ended up going back when I was in Toronto, working in the human rights field. I found one of my old teachers from Vancouver was in Toronto, and I studied with him, and we put up a play. And so I'll bring you to the love story of how I met Jared and Vincent. So somebody who came to the play was working for Rain Dance, told me to come to the networking events, which are really awkward if you have nobody to go with. So I went to one by myself, met these guys who were pitching something totally different, and then never went to any networking ever again. Yeah, so I've done other bits of film here and there, little bits. I was really hoping to get back to it this spring before the apocalypse happened, now that my kids are not in the infant stage.
One thing you brought up was that, as artists, as people who want to pursue acting, whether acting, painting, directing, cinematography, we all go through that phase where we're like, maybe I should do something else. And then, as you said, you don't sleep right. And, you eventually go back to it.
Yeah, the writing helped for me. That was the one thing that kind of got at the same itch. So I started writing my first book when I was right after Streamer. I decided it was time to get pregnant. I was trying to audition. I was like, hey, this part could be played pregnant. And people were just like, no. So then I just wrote a book, and I found that if, I kept writing and I kept pushing that, it helped. And I have control over that. The way we shot Streamer too, the guys were able to have control over it. You're not waiting for somebody else. You're not waiting for that nepotism or that luck or something to help get things rolling. It's nice. Sometimes you have to fund it and you have to do it on a dime, but you can just, it's nice. It's refreshing when you can just do something.
Absolutely. So Streamer, it was a short first, and then it's a feature. What's the genesis of it? Where did this idea come from?
The short I just ripped it from a personal experience that I had at the time. The short is about a heartbroken guy. It's 10 minutes. It's pretty much all in his bathroom in his apartment, and the guy's just going crazy, reflecting on this girl that he liked, and he through a monologue, basically, he's telling the story about how he thought there were mutual vibes, and then ultimately she likes or is with somebody else. So that's really the genesis. It was a short, and I was thinking about it the other day, even to date, it's still the thing that I've written where the emotions and what I had to say was just, it was all there, that it just, the words on the page seamlessly flowed. But I always thought it was important, the feature should be its own thing, but I also thought it was really important to me anyway, to maintain the spirit of the short. I think we achieved that, where I can look at the feature and be like, if I had seen the short, I'd see how the two connect, but I also see how the two separate and are totally their own thing.
Oh, yeah, it seems like the short was more a personal thing for you, and then you got to take that experience and find a way that it fits a fictional character, but can also be, widely accepted by others. And I think the feature does that. I don't think I've seen a feature from that point of view, tackling that subject matter.
Yeah, well, when we started writing the script in summer of 2014, the Elliot Rodger, that mass shooting, he shot up a bunch of women and then left a confessional from his car, wrote a manifesto online. So that incident at the time when we started writing, I think, took a blueprint that we had from the short. But as Vincent always said, who is the guy from the short? Now we have to actually create who this character is. He's not just Guy anymore. He's Jared in the movie.
Girls gave their affection and sex and love to other men, but never to me.
It's very, very brave of you to name it after yourself.
I was against it. I was against it, and then Vincent said, well, if we use your name, it'll fuck with the viewer, because then they don't know what's actually being pulled from somebody's real life or not, and it just adds more weight than if we called the character George or whatever,
These guys argued on every point, by the way.
Very subtly.
No, but no, in a good way though. Most people have too much ego to work with anybody that has different points of view. They had opposite points of view about almost everything and had to debate, and somebody had to win. And that's probably why it's so good.
Good ideas from both sides. Saying you were taking from, what's it, Elliot Rodger's
Elliot Rodger.
Elliot Rodger. It's such a messed up world that I get all the shootings mixed up. There's so many.
Yeah, he was the one with the that started the whole term incel.
Incel,
involuntary celibate.
Did you guys do any more research into incels? Because I definitely got huge incel vibes from like the first second of this film.
At the time, Elliot Rodger had a YouTube channel, and it was active at the time. All his videos were still up. It was like 4 a.m. and I went through all of them, and I just started to sweat. And then I remember I emailed Vincent and I was like, I'm not playing a killer, and like the short wasn't about a killer, and like that kind of freaked me out.
The appropriate reaction to that.
Well, I guess like the trap is that you see that monologue in the beginning, you label the guy a killer, and then you don't want to at least understand or empathize with that character for 78 minutes rest, And maybe for some people they don't, but a lot of from the people I've spoken to and people who've messaged me and random people who've found our movie and DM'd me on Instagram, it seems like a lot of people do at least empathize with the characters and are somewhat rooting for the romance between Tanya's character and my character. I mean, after our first screening we screened like the first cut in 2016 at the Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival in Toronto, and somebody messaged me. I'm not like good friends with the guy. He's a composer. He does work on other films, but he's like, dude, I totally related to that guy on more levels than
it's
you
like
know.
The same discomfort when you relate with Joker in the new Joker movie.
Hey, there are actual similarities in Joker with streamers. I was trying to exploit Joker and use it towards our advantage on Instagram. I was like doing posts about, hey, have you seen Joker? You should watch Streamer if you like Joker.
If you just smile.
Whatever you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, with Streamer, I think like the main, some of the main inspirations we had, what we talked about were like, were the Lonely Man movies of like the 70s, which Joker was kind of, riffing on, right? The Taxi Driver, French Connection, The Conversation, like those movies, like those were, what we were kind of trying to emulate, or at least they're kind of anti-hero, kind of paranoid, kind of cringy, borderline, that you kind of like them, but you're also disgusted by them, and you're compelled by them at the same time. It's just really kind of provocative.
Also, the movie Downtime, you should just mention that briefly. But we watched that like 3 times, I feel like in preparation for tone and mood and the feelings of just not going anywhere and just this mundane, just sparse, just atmosphere. I think what I said at the time, it reminded me of Clerks without just strip away the dialogue, the wittiness, the energy. It's a fun time. It's a fun watch.
I'm the director of Downtime. So I loved Clerks. I just wished it was miserable. So getting more into the production of this film, a lot of this film is, it's a guy talking to a webcam model. Did you do any research into modeling, webcam modeling, or did you talk to any webcam models to get their perspective?
No.
It's funny, Jared asked me that, and I was like, so you want me to watch webcam girls? Like, that's kind of murkier territory. I did some reading. It's interesting. Anytime in the sex industry, you've got so many different experiences, and you never want to take one experience and say that's everyone's experience, right? Especially like, I did my research in anti-trafficking, and most of the time with actual sex work, physical sex work, is what I should have said. There's most of the time people are exploited. Most of the time they don't make money. Most of the time women and men don't have agency. Some do. There are some exceptions, but that's not the norm. Whereas when you look at the webcam experience, it's a totally different scene. And I mean, it's okay. You do have the potential to own the space. It's your space. Nobody knows where you are, and you have the option to shut the laptop. So, there's going to be lots of cases where it is exploitation, and lots of cases, and that can be, coercion, or it can be, psychological manipulation, and that's to do with any type of sex work. But I was reading about one girl who it was her choice, and she wanted to do it, and she found it rewarding. And I read her take on it, and I found that was an interesting one. And one thing, so in acting, there's a term called defending your character. No matter how good or bad or moral or amoral your character is, you have to be able to defend them. And one thing she said, this woman that I was reading about, that was really interesting, and I don't know if it's true, but what she thought was that if you allow someone to act out a fantasy that's illegal, acting like the girl's too young or anything that we, non-consensual. Her feeling was that if you let somebody act that out with you, they won't go and do that in real life. I don't know that that's true, but that was an interesting perspective. It's a way to justify, okay, I'm actually making the world safer by helping, people go through toxic fantasies with me. I'm helping the world. And so it was kind of an interesting take on that. And it was interesting to hear one person's, again, though it's you gotta be so careful. You don't want to take, again, one person's experience and make it seem like everybody's or read the wrong thing into it. So I took her kind of stand, some of her thoughts, and then I just, with any acting, it's if this was me, this is what I would be doing. And there's that mix between you do want the money, you want the customer, you want to please them, you want to come back, and sometimes you hate their guts. And I remember sitting there and filming and smiling and hating him so much, and that saying, let me see your face, let me see your smile. And I waitressed for years. It's the same kind of thing where somebody thinks that they can control your reactions. They have a right to how you respond to them, even though, and that's a good narrative we have now. Men know not to go up to women and say, hey, you're not smiling, smile. It's like, no, if you want me to smile, you can make a joke, make me want to smile, right? So I think there was that was the type of research I did, anyway, from my perspective, to get into that. But it was, yeah, and by the way, the whole webcam thing was not in the original script.
Oh, what did that come in?
After we started, they sat me down, they're like, so we have an idea.
You're hired, but we want to do it one small thing.
And I was like, okay. So, and I didn't know these guys. What
have I gotten myself into?
Well, and it's funny, especially because I am a very strong feminist. I work in human rights. The message of the film was very, very, very important to me. And as an actor, you have so little control. Someone can take the footage and change it and add things, and suddenly you're in a film that you feel promotes, negative stereotypes to women or is sexist. And so you really have to trust people, especially when you know that, that script that you originally saw is gone. So you have no idea where things are leading. And I had this moment, I didn't tell you guys, I don't think, before we filmed the first cam session. And I was panicking a bit. So I called my husband, who was working 3 hours away. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling nervous about this. This was one of the first scenes we shot. I really didn't know these guys. And, and he said to me, because he's really supportive, he said, well, do you believe in the message? And I said, he said, do you believe that the film is going to have the message that you want? And I said, I do. And he said, well, then it's probably just nerves.
That's good advice.
Well, and for women, for lots of women who have had jealous boyfriends who really don't, the whole scene behind the dumpster when her boyfriend is making her feel guilty and he's jealous, and yeah, you can act without sex scenes, you can act without kissing scenes. That was not fiction. That was directly from a past toxic relationship that I had, where people think that they date you knowing you're an actor, but they're not. They're completely uncomfortable with that, and they try to guilt you and manipulate you away from that. So. But anyway, the conclusion, I trusted these guys, and I'm glad I did.
Well, now we feel bad now. Now I feel bad that
what Tanya was talking about, how the original script was not about a webcam girl. Mm-hmm. In the original script, it was about a video editor that becomes obsessed with an actress in a horror movie that he's editing.
Oh, it's like De Palma. It's like Blowout, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, but Vincent and I realized that if we were going to make this horror movie, this movie within a movie, we were making a movie. We set out to make a movie with the tools and resources that we had available to us. So if we just said, let's shoot tomorrow, we could do that. To do the whole other horror movie concept felt like we were already pushing boundaries that would possibly mess us up. We were already potentially biting off more than we could chew. Mm-hmm. If the cast and crew is literally Vincent, myself, and Tanya, pretty much. Again, to go back to references and films that we had been watching, we watched Paris, Texas. And I think that became something that led into the webcam angle. So I don't think we just randomly, pulled it out of a hat or something. Like we watched Paris, Texas was a very clear, I think, blueprint to how to keep what we wrote, but scale it down to something that we could actually do on our own and not have to worry about funds, props, help to make this movie within a movie. We were like, if we do the webcam angle, then it's really just somebody in front of a laptop.
Yeah, like it wasn't a scheme to like almost. It wasn't like trying to like dupe Tanya or.
It was also better because you're dealing with themes of isolation. You're dealing with possessiveness. And that it was the better choice. It got to. I mean, it made it more impact-filled. It made it deeper. It wasn't. You guys always go back to the logistics, right? But like. No, you sell yourself short on that. Like Jared's always like, oh, I cast myself because then I could use my own apartment. And it's like, yeah, but also when I came in Red, you and I had the right chemistry.
Oh, 100%.
And suddenly it made sense. And it was interesting to explore the webcam angle because that's not a technology people had before, you know, and the isolation we have right now with technology, that's a new modern theme. And the webcam fits into that really well.
That's the beauty of the film, I think, is that there's all these ideas going on, but we're not hitting the viewer over the head with them, right? So like, if you are even remotely engaged by the movie, I think you can hone in on certain ideas or certain themes and extrapolate all those things from it without us being like, look, this is a movie about isolation or longing for intimacy or the isolation that social media does to us all, or seemingly so. And that's great. Like, a lot of my favorite movies are movies where the ideas are there and they're big, but they're not spelled out for you.
And that's really what attracted me to the original script, actually. It was just the way that if something was shown, it wasn't over-explained. It actually demanded intelligence. And that was why I signed up.
You want to show, not tell, right?
I mean, I remember like just even rewriting the script, because we rewrote the script as we basically shot. And our scenes, just looking at the isolated scenes, they're just so sparse, so minimal. I always questioned if, I was always wondering if we should be doing more, at least on the page. But then we go to shoot the scenes, and they're still very minimal. But then you watch them after, and you're like, damn, there's just so much going on. I'm really happy that we actually made it as minimal as we could. It's almost like the more minimal it was on the page, the more life came out of it on screen.
And parts of that too, because we improvised so many of the scenes. So like the beginning scene with the cigarette, when we had lines, and then I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna talk unless you make me want to talk. So I just like said nothing. And that's what they ended up choosing. So, you know, when you have that freedom to explore and to improvise and see what actually feels right, I think you lose a lot of that unnecessary dialogue.
Absolutely. I found that scene, the cigarette scene, very believable. It worked very well.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth, that scene.
You feel for the guy, and you know you want him to find happiness. Going in with no experience is always rough while talking to people.
That's what made it so much fun to film this, though, and makes me, I mean, I'm gonna get back into industry soon, but it makes me feel a bit nervous about it because that's the kind of thing you would get to do in acting class. Be like, hey, walk out that door unless they say something that actually makes you stop, and you just go. And you go and you like head down the hallway and you head down the street and you just go. So, you know, it made it really fun that we could do that. But we also did every scene like 10,000 times. So we could do the script and then improvise and then change it.
That kind of brings me to one of the questions I want to ask. Since you co-directed this movie together, how did you split up the directorial responsibilities?
I feel like we had a conversation early on, and I don't even remember what it was about how we would split it up.
It was more organic, you know. It was organic, you know, just like, you know, whenever a problem came up, it would just be like, oh, should I do this, or I'm better than this. For instance, if it's more of a technical question, if it's like more, you know, like we're trying to do a ADR, or if we're trying to color grade, or if we need a certain codec, like I'm generally the more technical guy, so I took care of that stuff. And, you know, Jared generally, you know, did things like getting location agreements. So it's just, you know, whatever came up, and it's like, oh, I'll take this, I'll take that. And so it's not just I'm doing everything or Jared's doing everything. It's really just trying to lighten each other's load, if you will.
It was really like this whole process there was no pressure. You know, even though Vincent and I always had our own ideas. There was no like outspoken contention about them. We were always able to just kind of mold them and choose the best idea for the movie itself. And I just always made sure to express myself if I had an idea or
Keep the lines of communication open.
yeah, because that's even with the editing as well as like, you know, I just personally I'm at a point in my life where I just don't like to suppress what I'm thinking inside.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like this ongoing dialogue, and that's why and when I say we redid scenes, we weren't just redoing scenes, we were playing with them, you know. And
Right, yeah.
and the cool thing is that the guys actually let me throw in ideas and improvise things, and you know, oftentimes actors, especially female actors, are expected to be just talking heads, right? If it's not your lines, then we don't want anything from you. And so it was a very cool process.
This film has a really cool look to it. What camera do you use?
The A7S.
Oh, nice. It's a great camera.
Yeah.
Sony.
What was post like on this project?
It's a long editing period from what I remember.
Put it this way, we finalized and locked the cut in 2018.
2018?
Which means in 2018, that's when we actually locked the cut. But we first screened it in 2016.
Oh wow! So
there was all this tinkering still going on, very minor tinkering, and we started the editing process where Vincent and I were each editing on our separately, and eventually we just had to actually start meeting up and combining our stuff because it's just taking too long.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's a pretty modern thing though, to be editing it until the very end, even after showing it.
No, I mean, I think it happens all the time, actually. I mean, even back in the day, it'll just be like, you know, they'll be kind of due the week before. Like, I think Kubrick was like editing 2001, like the day before like it premiered or something, and then, you know, because he was constantly cutting, you know, like it was, you know, it was a lot longer than it was originally, and he would just panic because because it was like a really expensive movie, and then people didn't really like it, or the execs were like, what the hell is this movie? And then he was constantly cutting it down and changing the stuff. And
I guess it's an ageless problem then.
well, what would they say? It's like movies aren't finished, they're just abandoned, right?
That's careful, that's a Lucas line.
Hey, he's good. I like him.
That kind of thinking leads to the prequels.
Certainly the marketing and promotion never ends.
It's true.
I don't think it should end because we don't have that luxury. Like, the movie's officially out there, and that's great. It's amazing. But the reality is we're still a needle in a haystack. So everything we do like this, or every review we get, I'm still trying to get you know, some YouTubers to review it. Like, whatever we can do to stand out, we have to direct people to our own content. It's great that we can say go to Amazon Prime and TUBI. Like, that's amazing, but how do we get people there?
Yeah, exactly. And
if we don't do stuff like this, it won't be found.
The haystack's getting bigger and bigger every day. Yep. So what was the budget like for Streamer?
30,000.
3,000?
Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's exactly what I want, Vincent.
We didn't really budget, you know, like it was really, you know, what Jared talked about was just the whole movie. It was the three of us, and we would just, you know, we would shoot, and the whole process, because before we did Streamer, we were, you know, trying to raise money for this other project, and, you know, and we did that for about a year, and we just got sick of it, and just like trying to ask permission to, you know, do what we want. And so with Streamer, it was just like, it was, fuck it, we're just gonna go and make this film. Like, I've got a camera, I think Jared had like some sound equipment, and we just we met this actress, you know, Tanya, and she lived like a block from Jared. Yeah, but it was a very real logistical, you know, like a advantage, because it was really, you know, sometimes we would just message her and be like, hey, are you available? And most of the time she would say, yeah, sure, just give me like an hour and I'll just walk over and we'll shoot a scene.
You make me sound like I had a really good social life, Vince.
Well, you could, you know. Well, not saying anything.
No, it's true though. What I wanted to do on Friday and Saturday night was work on Streamer. That's what we did for like a year.
That's great. It sounds like it just worked out. It seems to be a very common thing with a lot of the filmmakers I've interviewed on the show, is that you're trying to raise money to make a movie in a very traditional sense, and you just get really frustrated with it because it is almost like you're asking permission to do this thing when you know you have the means of production already. So you just say, you know, I'm gonna not do the project I was raising money for, and instead go down and make this project that I can make with what I have. What was distribution like for this film? How did you get Amazon Prime and Tubi?
Also, I guess I could start this answer off. I'll just say I have a filmmaker peer who was burning Blu-rays for us at the time, and he eventually watched the movie and really liked it. So he talked it up to his sales agent at the time. They watched it, they liked it, and they decided to take it on and see if they can get it distributed, which was great because I didn't ask him to do any of that.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, I was hoping he'd watch it. I knew he had some connections, but we have another mutual friend, and I think he talked it up to this guy as well, just being like, "Hey, watch Streamer." Eventually, he did.
Yeah, I guess we got our sales agent, and through them, like I think it was almost a year, right? And then we finally got ammo distribution involved, and then they wanted to distribute the film, and we said we just went with them, and yeah, then that was that. And then now it's on Amazon Prime, and I think a few other places. Apparently, it's in Vietnam, and is it? Yeah, I think Vietnam is some other place.
This guy from India DM'd me on Instagram. He said he loved the film, but he also told me he watched it off of Pirate Bay and that it was trending at the time.
Oh, well.
That doesn't look. That's, I think, you know, all the exposure is great. So if somebody watched it off of Pirate Bay, I don't think that hurts us.
It's great to hear that it's trending. You know, what's
at
that
the time, yeah.
What's that saying? No press is bad press. Bad press is good press.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that.
Like within the first 2 weeks that it went up on Amazon, it felt like I was like every third day I was getting a DM on Instagram from somebody random, which was great.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
That sounds awesome. I mean, it must feel awesome.
I was like, how the fuck did you watch our movie? But the company is called Ammo Content.
Content.
Yeah. You know, they've I think they've been around since 2017. But again, man, like the reality is, you know, it's not like they're really putting our movie out there, if we're being honest.
You got to self-promote.
Exactly. Like I watched your most recent episode with the Cosmos. Is that Cosmos?
Cosmos, yeah.
Yeah, and that's amazing for them. They talked about how they're getting calls and all that stuff. Again, I don't think that's the reality. Any other filmmakers listening,
it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed is the thing that
not at all.
Everyone listening should take away from this, is that you have to promote it.
Yeah, because I think that's really almost like the dark side of filmmaking, is that most, I think, we went into it. I think most filmmakers, when they're starting out, we just want to make films. You want to make something, like that hopefully resonates, and that it's, want to make art, and that's, it's very, kind of, in a way, it's very noble, but at the same time, it's very naive, because we go into it and we know nothing, and distributors most of the time will take advantage of people's naivete, and so we make these deals, and we don't really know. I mean, we know how to hold a camera and shoot it and cut it and grade it and everything, but in terms of making deals and like getting sales agents, it was a real huge learning experience. And even still, like we don't know everything there is to know, like to see these contracts, which are like, 10, 20 pages long, and seeing all the fine print, you don't really, as a filmmaker, you don't really know, and you don't know who's looking out for your best interest, your sales agent, distributors, you have no idea what they're doing. And yeah, it's tough out there, it's especially now with like so much, things up in the air. We don't really know what's going to happen with COVID and movies and film festivals, and how's that going to impact all of us. And
what advice would you give to someone who's in that point of the process?
Trying to get distribution?
Yeah.
Having a plan is the most obvious, but I feel like a lot of when we're starting out, like when we made Streamer, we didn't think about like where it's gonna go, like who's the audience, who's gonna potentially distribute the film. And I think if you want, and for streamer, it's okay because we spent next to nothing on this film. But if you do make a film and you spend like real money, you should really think about where it's gonna go and how you're gonna get that money back. Because you can't just assume that you make a good film, and then even because making a good film has nothing to do with if you make any money or to make something commercial. You really have to know exactly who's your target, who's the distributor that's best to distribute the film, and to work with people who actually care and aren't gonna just rip you off. Because you hear there's all these stories all the time, and you look at them, but they're not really publicized because no one really cares about the film distributor side filmmaking. All they want, all I want to hear is Brad Pitt's new movie and how much money it's gonna make, and success stories and winning the Oscar. But most filmmakers are struggling filmmakers. They're struggling to pay their bills, and they're not getting good deals, and that it's very slanted towards distributors because they control everything. They control what films get distributed and how much marketing, and because it's tough.
It would be cool if we saw the film industry do a similar system to, because I just talk about the writing on Amazon. What's really cool is I hired my editor, I hired my designer, and then I published directly to Amazon. So I control my metadata, I control all the advertising, I see exactly how many views. There's no agent. You get an agent if you're going to a traditional publisher where you relinquish some control. There's no contract, there's no agent. It's I'm not saying that you make better sales, but at least you have more control. And it's funny because for all that Amazon's crushing small businesses everywhere, I can say as a writer, it's really great to work with them. They make it really easy. So it's funny that Amazon for filmmakers, it's not a similar system at all. But for the ebooks and for the self-publishing, it's really been like a whole revolution really in the last 10, 15 years.
That's interesting that their system for ebooks and I'm sure all printed media as well.
Yeah, so it's the same. I mean, I have my ebook, I have my paperback, and it's just, again, nobody's advertising except for me. But I do control everything. But the thing that's been so great with indie for writing is that there's a few big indie publishers, the ones who actually make six figures, who went out and they actually detailed all the steps, exactly how to do this. And I know when we had that showing in Toronto right before COVID hit, guys, there were so many filmmakers that are asking me those questions. How did you do it? How did you get distribution? And so I think for writing, that's what's really led the way, is these people that went through Amazon and they made it really easy and transparent. And so it's not easy to be I mean, like I said, I've been able to win a bunch of awards and get on some big lists, but it's still not easy to make sales. But at least I know what to do, and I know how to do it, and I can. Again, I just had a launch and I controlled all the metadata and all that. And so at least you can do something. You're not waiting on anybody.
That is interesting that it's one way for print and a different way for video under the same Amazon banner. We'd probably want is maybe like a hybrid between YouTube and Amazon, where you can just upload your movie and control everything.
Right.
The one problem with that, of course, and we see it with indies, people say, they find indie books where there's mistakes, where people haven't, indie authors that couldn't afford an editor but still published. And then it might have somebody discount all indie. And so I think I can understand not wanting to relinquish that control, but there's got to be some way to have, direct access while maintaining some quality controls, or we'll see what they come up with.
You brought up an important point there with, quality control. I don't know how often you guys lurk Amazon Prime Video, but I've seen unfinished films on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen stuff where the sound wasn't done.
There's a lot of crap on there.
There is. It's kind of the digitization of the local video store.
I will say though, in answer to your question about what do you tell filmmakers trying to get distribution? There's a general answer that I have that has served me well in this entire experience, and it's how I worked with Vincent and Tanya, and getting the sales agent through the guys burning Blu-rays. But it kind of comes down to the relationships you build, people you talk to, the people you send emails to, and even if it's just sending your trailer or whatever, like you don't know who's gonna be able to help you out with what and when. And that's why it's very important for filmmakers, I think, to just build those relationships. You can try to establishing friendships with people and helping other people out and just opening up that dialogue. It allows them to help you when you need advice, resources, whatever it is. That's like very generally, that's the one thing that has just helped me out big time and allowed me to get from point A to where we are right now. If you get people in your corner, then people are, I think, happy to help you out.
Let's move on. All right, so here's a question that I ask all the filmmakers on the show, and a lot of the time they have a hard time coming up with an answer. Let me see how you guys do. What movie do you follow up Streamer with? Like I finished watching Streamer. What do I watch now?
You should watch Streamer again. Just stream it again. That's what you should do.
That's the first time we've gotten that answer.
Yeah.
You want a movie that's
it's out there right now.
Right. I think Streamer, I think both the short and the feature, for me, like I always tell people to watch it late, because with the music and the sound design, I feel like I love the idea of a movie that can just kind of seduce you and kind of make you lose sight of the fact that you're even watching a movie and kind of suck you into its own world, and kind of just let the visuals and the music and the sound design kind of work together and just wash over you. So like Blade Runner is a great movie. That's why I love the first Blade Runner, is because it does all that. Like I could turn that movie on at any scene and just get seduced into its world. So I would say watch Streamer and then put on Blade Runner, and you'll just be in this like cocoon of feelings.
Well, I guess I would plug, I guess we mentioned it before, but Downtime, it's directed by Greg Hanak. It's a Winnipeg film.
Okay, Downtime. Blade Runner and Downtime.
Yeah, that's a good watch. Yeah, black and white. 1985, actually. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. That's the one I was talking about earlier that like is just very the Clerks without the energy.
Sad Clerks.
Sad Clerks.
And
yeah.
Tanya, since your field of expertise is literature, if we watch Streamer like, oh man, I'm just done with movies for a little while, I'm gonna go do something else, what should we read?
Her book.
Her book. There we go. Okay.
I mean, honestly, after watching Streamer, sometimes, like, after you watch something heavy like that, I don't know that I'd want to watch something deeper heavy after. I'd probably go binge watch Community just to, like, break my head out of it.
Good point.
So we got Blade Runner, we got Downtime. So let's wind this down a little bit. Don't want to take up all your time. Thank you for staying on as long as you guys have.
Yeah, for sure.
So where can we watch Streamer?
Streamer is available on Amazon Prime Video and TUBI TV.
Where can we find you guys and your other works online?
You can Google Streamer short film, and find it and take a look at that.
And where can we find you?
Find me, the best place, Instagram at Bratt Jared. That's BRATTJARED, because I'm really more active on Instagram than anything.
On Instagram, okay. So. And then Vincent, how can we find you?
You can't find me anywhere. I'm not on social media, so.
Oh, look at you. Internet. There we go.
Yeah.
I love that energy. There we go. Mystery man.
Yep.
And Tanya?
So I'm at tanya-lee.com, and you can find my Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and everything, and links to the book. So yeah, tanya-lee.com.
There we go. So what is next for each of you?
So the feature film I'm trying to get going now is called Blue Dream. I call it a neo-noir romance thriller. I mean, look, I'm trying to chase funding for that, so it's a completely different ballgame now. And I'm reminded every single day why we made Streamer the way we did it, because it's like, it's just a fucking battle. And but that's what I'm focused on right now. That's what I'm working on next. Hopefully you get to see Blue Dream.
Hopefully, we'll have you back on for that. And then Vincent, what's up next for you?
I guess I'm working on a feature as well called Sweet Blood. Like originally we're supposed to shoot this spring, but then, you know, something happened to the world, and so it got delayed. And yes, we just have to wait until this pandemic is officially over, because it's just, you know, there's just a lot of legal ramifications if, you know, people got sick. And, you know, like even on the show I'm, you know, just started on, it's like 2 day, you know, every, you know, twice a week testing, constant, you know, like surveillance, you know, you have to do questionnaires, and it's really, there's a lot of legal implications of what happens if someone gets it. You know, like if someone was to contract the virus, then, you know, you might have to, you know, shut down for 2 weeks, and it's like a lot of money, and it's like it's really, and we're just learning this as we go along, because it's, you know, no one's really, I mean, obviously no one's done this before, so it's, you know, it's, yeah, a lot of things are just really murky, and we don't really know what's going to happen.
Very stressful time.
Yeah.
And Tanya, outside of your new book, what else we got going on? What's next?
I'm trying to work on the third book because it's a trilogy, and I'm working on the audiobooks, which is interesting. It's that between writing and acting. The problem is I live like in the forest right now, and the birds are so loud, and the rain's so loud, and my children are so loud. So we'll see. The audiobooks might have to start again next spring. But I regularly harass Jared and Vincent for them to cast me in their new films.
Well, we got two going on.
Yeah. The trick is to be persistent. Unless you're Jared in a film called Streamer, in which case you need to take a hint.
All right. So we'll wrap this up. I could talk to you guys forever. It's a lovely conversation. Jared and Vincent, will we see you for your next film? Have you back on the show for Hey, You Made Your Movie, what I like to call sophomore edition. It hasn't happened yet, but sophomore edition is what it's going to be called.
100%, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, fingers crossed, you know, like the film, you know. Yeah.
It'll happen. It just takes this all will pass. That's something we all have to remind ourselves. This too will pass.
I mean, I'll come back on even with no movie. I'll just go against your format that you have going here. So,
well, I'm putting together the idea for a stream where we just talk about a movie or talk about a genre.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So if you get that going, I'm there.
There we go. And Tanya, any projects you work on? Can we have you back on?
Oh, definitely.
Sweet.
This is the first time I got out of pajamas in a really long time.
Oh, it's so hard to get out
I mean,
of
I'm
pajamas.
in stretchy pants, but they're like daytime stretchy pants, so.
Little victories, right? Well, the people are Jared Bratt, Vincent Pun, and Tanya Lee. And the film is Streamer, available on TUBI TV and Amazon Prime. Jared, Vincent, and Tanya, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for having us, man.
Oh, hi. Well, that was my interview with the team behind Streamer. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out their work as well as the movies they recommended, I put the links below so you can check them out for yourself. Have you subscribed to our channel? Why haven't you? Are you not supporting indie film? Do you not like indie film? Hit that like and subscribe button to support indie cinema and filmmakers like yourself, because what's better than that? Speaking of filmmakers, are you a filmmaker? Have you recently put out a feature or a short? Or maybe you're trying to raise money through Kickstarter or Indiegogo? Either way, email me at heyyoumadeyourmovie@gmail.com and explain your situation, and I'll see how you can fit into what we're trying to do. We're trying to promote indie film. So, for the Hey You Made Your Movie show, I'm Carl Diamond. And until next time, keep making movies, keep writing scripts, keep watching movies, keep networking. I can't wait to see all the films you're going to make, but first, you have to make them. Now, if you'll excuse me. Private room time.